Are certain areas of the world more haunted than others? Are certain people more haunted than others? And what happens when you place a very haunted person in a very haunted place? It becomes hard to tell where the haunting originated. For Nick, strange things have happened everywhere he has lived in Michigan. Then again, he knows for sure some things have followed him from place to place. So the reasons why he is so haunted remain a mystery. But maybe you can figure it out. Today on Homespun Haints. Hello, Hainted Loves. Welcome to Homespun Haints. I'm Becky.
I'm Diana. Sorry, I wasn't ready.
I love it. Diana's wearing her headphones upside down. So if everything Diana says comes out backwards, it's because she's got her headphones on backwards. Anyway, today we have a special guest. We are bringing on Nick Click. He is a listener of ours who submitted a story to us.
Hi, Nick.
And we're so thrilled to have him on today. I love it when you all send us stories. It's such a thrill to hear from you all. So if you're listening and you're like, I have a ghost story, I should send it to Homespun Haints. Go ahead and do so.
Yeah.
We might just have you on the show. Nick is going to come on here in a little bit and share with us some really, really strange things that have happened to him in Michigan. And you can decide for yourself if Michigan is haunted or if Nick is haunted.
Mm-hmm. He mentions his friend's party house.
Nick does talk about a party house where not all of the guests are still living. You and I probably both had friends with the party house growing up or in college.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't my house. Anywhere but my house. My house, I mean, I had like the cool mom, but also my house did not have a living room, dining room, den, sunroom, or literally anywhere for children. It was my bedroom or outside. I guess it's a generational thing. Like, you can't just be in the house as children. It definitely wasn't a good party house. But I built like haunted houses out of appliance boxes in the backyard. So people came over to my house, but they mostly stayed outside. So it wasn't really necessarily like the party house, or at least I don't think of it that way. Did you have a party house growing up?
Absolutely not. I had the really, really strict parents that nobody wanted to come to my house.
Aww.
You could not show up to my house drunk or high. I would insist that you go in the backwoods and sober up until you could come inside because I didn't want to get caught. But I do remember I had a really bizarre experience when I was in college. There was this incident. I was a freshman in college, and it was a friend of a friend's parents had this house way out in Aurora, Illinois.
Aurora.
And apparently this was a party house. So we all piled it. I don't even remember how I got there. I didn't have a car at the time. This part of my life is a little bit of a blur. But I remember hopping in this car and driving to Aurora, Illinois to spend New Year's Eve at this friend of a friend's parents' party house. And unfortunately, one of the people there got very, very drunk, like belligerently drunk.
Oh, no.
And he got himself locked in the bathroom and he didn't know how to get out. He couldn't figure out how to get out because that's how drunk he was. And so he started slamming himself back and forth into the walls and ripping things up. I think he ripped the towel rack off of the wall. He may have pulled down the shower curtain. It was pretty violent. All the while, the friend of the friend's dad was on the other side of the door going, "You better not destroy anything." And the poor kid's like going, "I'm going to break this door down." And the dad's going, "I'm going to break your fucking head." And next thing I know, a shotgun comes out and other kids are splashing water on their faces, trying to sober up and figure out how to deal with the situation. And me, little 18-year-old, seeing the situation, seeing that there was violence, guns, alcohol, all of these things going on, I took it upon myself to walk out the front door in Aurora, Illinois, December 31st.
Oh, no.
There was a hot tub in the front yard, and I got in it, fully clothed at -5 degrees in the water. And I sat there for hours.
So that you could remove yourself from the debauchery that was the inside
So I could
party.
remove myself from, I just waited for the screaming to stop. It was an older house. The walls were thin. And then I walked in, dripping wet, It's like 4 degrees outside. But luckily there was enough bubbles. I was like, I hope nobody notices that I'm in my clothes in this hot tub, because I could see this guy with the gun coming out and be like, what are you doing in that tub in your clothes? You know, like, you know, you're not supposed to do that. But I figured that would be better than getting in there in my underwear. And sure enough, it was a very soggy night that night, sleeping in those wet clothes on the couch by the busted out door with the wide open gun cabinet and things missing from it.
Oh no, that's terrible.
So that's my only party house story.
That was terrifying. I'm sorry. Sounds like a normal night in Aurora, Illinois. I don't know. So you got in the hot tub with your clothes on because you were so sober at the time, right? So sober.
Sure, I was 18. It was underage. I was not.
I don't even have any stories for when I'm over 18, Becky. I didn't go to any more parties. As soon as I turned 18, I was 17, I moved out of the house and I immediately made friends with 50-year-old single women and witches and lesbians. And that was it. And so like 50-year-old lesbian witches is all I hung out with the entire time I was in undergrad. They had no desire whatsoever to have shenanigans like that happening on their watch. And I loved it. They were like, do you want to bring a covered dish over? That was like the parties that we had.
I'm sure I brought a covered dish to this thing.
Right? Of course.
I mean, it was, yeah. You know, I never went back there.
Congratulations.
The next
That's
New
good.
Year's, I was invited, and I was like, you know, I think I'm gonna go to New York.
Last year wasn't such a good time. Yeah.
Very, very far away. Yeah, anywhere but here.
Oh my goodness.
So what we're going to hear from today is a party house in Michigan, which is just spooky. If these places that I just mentioned were haunted, we wouldn't have known it because
There was too much going on.
too much going on. Yeah. I probably had ice on me by the time I came inside.
Ugh.
Yeah,
This is how I
it was
like my parties.
That bathroom the next day was just destroyed. I remember walking in there going, ooh.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, by the time this airs, I will be on a plane, actually, as this airs, flying back from Diana's haunted basement. I'm recording this now. I have no idea what's going to happen. You all know, though. You all know, because you're in the future.
You're in the future. Tell us what happens. Please tell us now. Was it bad? Was it really bad? What's in the hole?
By the time this airs, you will have seen that. If you missed it, oh well, because it's not getting replayed
It'll never happen again.
unless you're a patron. If you are a patron, it will get played on our Patreon in full. It's the only way you can watch it. We may release some snippets, some teasers, just to whet your appetite. Just on YouTube if you're not a patron. But if you missed it and you want to see the full thing, go to patreon.com/homespunhaints, sign up, become our patron, become our minion. And nothing. I didn't mean that. And join our secret cult of extra goodies and commercial free content. Yeah. You're the one that was talking about people having sex while they listened to us last week.
You sound like you're channeling Tim Curry, though. It's
Do I?
great.
Come up to the lab and see what's on the slab.
Exactly. We're so excited to do this coming up, but you've already seen it, so all I can say is I hope it was okay.
It's fine. Diana is so nervous. But by the time this airs, it'll all be over.
It'll all be over now.
But if you're not a patron, not only will you not get to watch it,
But you'll have to watch this commercial.
dun, dun, dun.
Oh, no.
And today on the show, we are thrilled to bring on Nick Click. He's an optician who listens to our show on his lunch breaks, he told us. And he's had ghostly experiences basically his entire life, which we are so excited to hear about. We just got kind of a bulleted list when you reached out to us, Nick. So I'm really excited to hear more details about everything that has been going on with you throughout your entire life.
Yes.
Nick, thank you so much for being on the show. It's wonderful to meet you.
Yeah, no problem. It's just so much fun finally being able to talk to you two. I'm already having a great time and we're 30 seconds in.
Excellent.
That's wonderful to hear. Nick, You said that you've been experiencing things your whole life, but it wasn't really until college that you started paying attention and saying, maybe this isn't just a coincidence.
Right. I'm not sure exactly where I can pinpoint when things started to get worse in my life, but it was definitely when I was living with two roommates, Caitlin and Jordan. We all started to realize something's definitely different here. And I reached out to both of them, and Caitlin reminded me that it was a townhome and we are at the very end of it. And the first thing I think we started to all notice was that our back door would be unlocked and opened when we would wake up.
Ooh.
And it got to the point where we just duct taped it shut. So, and it fixed the problem. So we didn't really worry about that.
The old college fixed the problem. Yes, yeah.
What city was this in?
This is in Kalamazoo. All of my stories are from Michigan. I'm from the Ann Arbor area, a small town called Dexter. I moved to Kalamazoo for college. It was a townhome, so it wasn't like an old building, or it wasn't in a weird area. It's right by the university. We all started noticing like cold spots around the house. Jordan said he thought one of us would be in the kitchen because he had the room on the lower level. So he would always hear things being moved around, and he'd come out of his room and no one was there. There was one day when Caitlin, a friend of ours, Tyler, and I, we were in the living room, and the living room kind of faced the kitchen, like you could see into it, and we all watched the silverware drawer slide open, like during movie night.
Oh.
And we just all looked at each other, and we were under the influence, but all of us saw it. And we just looked at each other and ignored it for a little bit. And then eventually, I think it was Caitlin, she just got up, walked over, and slowly slid it closed. And that was the only time that had ever happened.
Oh.
But,
Whoa. So it wasn't like the drawer was set in there incorrectly.
no, that was literally the only time it did it. So Caitlin, Jordan, and I, we get together and we all agree that there's something in the house. And we didn't want to gender it, so we named it Terry. We'd always have conversations like, oh, Terry did this, Terry did that. We all had our own experiences with Terry. There were a few things that really freaked me out, though. One time I was in the kitchen and I was alone, and like a lot of college students, you know, you have the cabinets and then there's like that foot of space above the cabinets, and that's where you put your empty liquor bottles.
Mhm.
That's just how you decorate. I'm alone in the kitchen and I have my back turned, and a whiskey bottle had come up over the lip and hit the counter right next to me and shot across the floor. It did not break. But the only way that could have at all ever happened was if someone stood on the counter or got a step stool and pulled it off. It was hard to put them on without climbing onto something or having help from a taller friend. I was the only one home, and this thing came up over the ledge and hit the corner next to me.
Ugh.
I remember seeing, now I think it was a black mist, but when it happened to me, I thought I saw black snakes like slither under my bed. And there was two of them, and I caught it more than once. Another place I lived in Kalamazoo, it actually happened another time.
Whoa.
So I actually think that for a time being, I had something following me.
It sounds like it, yeah.
It was just scary, and I didn't know what it was. But like I said, I think it was, now that I know more about it, and I've been into this sort of thing, really into it ever since, I think I was seeing a black mist that was just headed my way. I believe it was Jordan said he recalls the neighbor having similar issues, like things being moved around and hearing footsteps and things like that. There was a creepy abandoned house. I'd say it was under 25 yards, maybe 30 yards away from us. One day we saw it and we were interested about it, and we watched it for a while, and we snuck over to see what was going on. We look in the windows and it's clearly set up for Christmas, and it was July when we finally explored it. And all of the furniture and everything it seemed like from the 70s. No one ever went up there. It did have a little 2-track driveway, and it was just completely grown over.
Do you think Terry came from the abandoned house? He was like, hey, Christmas in July, that doesn't make sense. I'm just going to go hang out with these college kids.
It's very possible that could be it. When things picked up, I was in my young 20s, and there's a really cool cemetery here in Kalamazoo that's full of hills. And I noticed things picked up a lot more, I think, after I went around to look around there, because that's what I was doing at the time. Like, it's super hilly, so it's actually really nice for a walk. And there's a lot of famous local people buried in there. And they have massive headstones, and one of them's a giant orb. It's really cool, but
Ooh.
I think maybe I got followed and then it amplified whatever was there. That's the only thing I can think of. So I was the last person to move out of that house. Everyone else, they moved out a few days before. I was there the last day of the lease. And this is still the scariest thing that's ever happened to me in my life. So I'm running things out to my car. I'm throwing things out that I need to, just getting the house clear. And it's super early in the morning. I don't want to say it was 3 because that's kind of cliche and I actually don't know what time it was. I'm running in and out and I feel this oppressive feeling kind of start. And whatever, I don't have time to deal with any of it. It's like, not now, Terry. Calm down.
Oh.
We're not going to deal with this. I'm running in and out of the apartment and upstairs and up to my room to put things in my car and whatnot. It was a townhome, so it had the little flight of stairs up, the platform, flight of stairs up. And at the top of it, there was a handrail that you could look over, I think, to just make it seem more open. But it really served no purpose. So I'm running in and out, and one of the times I run in, I feel definitely a lot more weird. And I go out one more time. And then this next time I come in, my foot hits about the 3rd step and I freeze, absolutely freeze into place. I was petrified. I couldn't move at all. I just locked up and my entire body immediately got covered in goosebumps. All my hair was standing up and I could not bring myself to look above me because I knew something was looking down at me. I was completely petrified. I couldn't move at all. And I finally muster up enough courage to take a step backwards. And I run outside of the house. Just completely everything washed off of me, it felt like. And then I was freaking out outside and sitting in my car. And I had to muster up courage to run back into my home. And I only mustered up enough. I couldn't keep working, but I just sprinted up the stairs, both flights, and then straight into my bedroom, slammed the door, and started yelling that this is still my house. I think I was like, I have to at least try to take a nap. I can't deal with this right now. I fell asleep. That was the most terrified I've ever been.
So, what in your wildest dreams do you think it was you would have seen if you had looked up?
I'm not sure really what I would have seen then. A few months earlier, I was at my parents' house. I was there with a girlfriend I had at the time. One night we go to bed, and I've had sleep paralysis before, and I've had some very scary ones, and you can't move and all that good stuff. We lay down one night, and I'm like half asleep. My bed in my parents' house is under the window, so it's in the center of the room, and so you can stand on either side of the bed. I remember like half waking up and feeling something lurching over my side of the bed, looking down at me. And I actually remember thinking, well, that's fucking scary. And turning over to my girlfriend and just kind of spooning the shit out of her with my head under the covers because I didn't want to look at it. I was half asleep, so I couldn't tell you how much time has passed. But I woke up to her saying, there's someone in the room. There's someone in the room. Look. And she gestures to it. She points, and my parents' house, they have a white door, and I could see a black silhouette of just a head and shoulders. It was like in a cloak, though. You could see the shoulder line. And she's frozen and pointing at it and just staring at this thing. My phone was near her, so I was like, get my phone, get the light. And I reach over her. Finally, I get it and point it, and it was gone.
Oh.
And she woke up from a dead sleep to tell me there was someone in a room. And I'm half asleep with this thing just however long before standing over me. I think maybe if it were anything that was looking over me over that railing, it might have been whatever the hell that thing was.
Oh.
And I had mentioned this story to my brother maybe a year or two after it happened. And he remembers waking up to the same thing. And he thought it was me messing. Like, this is his old bedroom. He thought it was me messing with him. And he ended up throwing a pillow at it, and it just went through and disappeared.
Oh. Whoa, you experienced the same thing in your brother's old bedroom that he used to experience when he was living there.
I think he was like 20 at the time.
Okay. Did anything happen growing up in that house?
We all had different things happen. There's always been a weird feeling in certain parts of the house, but now it's relegated to a guest room that we have.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Yeah. So it's terrible for anyone who stays in there. And actually, if my friends come and stay because we're going to like a show in Detroit or something, I don't tell them about that to see if they say anything. And the last time that I did that, one of my friends, I won't say her name, but she stayed in that room for maybe about 90 minutes and came into my bedroom crying, having a panic attack about the nightmare she was getting in there.
Oh.
That room, my old bedroom was right across from it, and it shared a Jack and Jill bathroom, so you could get to it from both sides. And my entire childhood, that door was closed. I can't bear to look in there. And I was just home this past weekend. I walked by the guest room, and it's kind of got a weird feeling to it, but I went in at night, and I was like, I still don't fucking like this at all. It's just like a terrifying room.
Do your parents experience anything there? They still live in the house?
Yeah, they do. My dad would never, just because he's that kind of person. But my mom and I, we've had discussions over the years. Once we had a family pet pass away, and I remember I was walking upstairs, and my mom, she gets my attention. She goes, I think something followed Jackie over the Rainbow Bridge.
Oh?
And then we have these spots in my parents' house where whether it's a 20-pound miniature schnauzer or a full-grown person, they sound the same when they're walking over it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And both dogs would be outside, no one would be home, and you'd hear someone walk over it. That weird sort of thing. Just like there's someone there, it's nothing bad. Well, it doesn't seem as bad there, except for whatever woke me up that one night. But there are definitely more welcoming feelings in that house.
So did these things start after Jackie passed away?
No, that was a separate occurrence. I've had some things like when I was younger, when the dogs are still alive and everything. I remember it's happened 2 or 3 times, but I would wake up and from the center of my chest would get warm and then it'd radiate throughout my entire body. And it felt like something would be passing through me. That happened around the time I first remember when my grandmother passed away. So this was 2001. And it happened maybe a couple times since then. Actually, everywhere I've lived, I've woken up to my bed shaking.
Ooh.
Actually, like rattling. I'm to the point where I think there must be a scientific explanation about it because it's happened everywhere I've lived. I've actually woken up and I was like, did we just have an earthquake? Which in Michigan, that's pretty much unheard of.
Yeah.
But like, it's enough to wake me up. And then it keeps going a little bit once I'm up. I'll wake up and check the news and no one said anything, but this thing has always happened to me.
So you're still feeling the bed shake even while you're fully conscious.
Yes.
It's not
Yeah.
something you're dreaming about.
Yeah.
Could it be something where you have a startle in your sleep and kind of shake yourself awake?
I've like jolted awake before from like bad
Yeah.
dreams. I've had that. This is not that. It's,
Not that. Okay.
It's like, I don't know. It's like an earthquake and the whole thing does it.
You said it feels like your bed is shaking. Have you been able to observe your bed shaking separate from the room as if something's actually shaking your bed?
No, I've never seen it in the daytime. It's always been when I'm asleep. That's why I think it might be something weird my body might be doing, but that doesn't explain why it keeps happening after I know I'm up.
Right, exactly. And you said that you'd say, did we just have an earthquake? You had a partner beside you in the bed when this has happened. Did they corroborate or anything?
I think 2 of the times I had someone next to me. I woke them up to be like, don't you feel this? And they're like, no.
Oh, so you were always the only one who felt it.
Yeah, so I think it has to be something with me, but it's still really weird, and I do not like it when it happens.
That doesn't necessarily mean anything. I'm always waking Amber up and going, did you see that? Did you hear that?
Oh, yeah.
No, go back to sleep.
That's terrifying. I wouldn't want that happening either.
Yeah.
One of my craziest ghost stories happens up north at my friend Jordan at his parents' house. We went up there for one reason, I think just to party because most of us were still under 21 or had just turned 21, whatever. And it's in the middle of nowhere, so you can't bother anybody. There's nowhere to go, so you're not leaving the property. But his parents' house, if half the story he's told me about it are true, it's a crazy place. But I had an experience there that I still can't explain. I had heard all the stories about his property and everything like that. He did give me permission to share this one story. So a handful of us are up north partying there, and we're winding down for the night. And I've heard all the stories about his house, and I was like, I'm not sleeping anywhere in this house alone, Jordan. I'm sleeping on your floor in your bedroom. Sorry about it if you're upset by it, but it's not happening. We were in the basement. That's where his bedroom is. And I hear someone come down the stairs. And okay, whatever. There's a lot of us here. And I hear someone go back up the stairs. And then I hear him go down and back up and down and back up and down and back up. And it happens a lot. And I was like, okay, one of my friends is absolutely plastered right now. They might need help.
Yeah.
So I waited for them to come down again. And I stand up and I rip the door open to be like, hey, what are you doing? And there was nobody there.
Ooh.
And there's absolutely no way that they could have gotten out of my eyesight or done that so many times without someone else noticing. I I look around, no one's there. I'm the only one awake. I close the door and I hear him go back up the stairs.
Oh.
And then I just laid on the floor in my sleeping bag and tried not to cry until the sun came up.
Yeah, really.
But that was probably one of the scariest moments of my life. I didn't feel threatened by anything. There's no way it was any of his dogs because they had hardwood stairs. So you would have heard the nails if it was them.
Yeah, that click, click,
The
click, click, click.
click, yeah.
Yeah, you can tell the difference between a human and a dog going upstairs.
Oh, yes.
It was absolutely horrifying.
I've been in that situation myself, so yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Out in the middle of nowhere, too. So probably same basic feeling of, well, where else am I going to go?
Right. His property, it's just kind of spooky. He has stories about hearing tapping on his window at night, and he wakes up, and in the snow, you can see footprints coming up to his window.
No.
I know that his brother, he's covered all the windows in his room. He doesn't let any light in there at all, just because of the things that have happened to the both of them.
He doesn't currently still live there, right? This is the house he grew up in?
Right. But his mom is still there, and he visits frequently. It's a beautiful property, too.
Oh, I'm sure it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So is the Overlook Hotel.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I just don't understand why he would stay someplace like that. That's terrifying.
It seems they did some remodeling at one point, and things got a lot worse. And then I guess it's sort of toned down since they'd finished it.
And it's just, you said, in the middle of the woods in Michigan.
Yeah, you couldn't find it really if you tried.
Oh, no.
Is it an older house?
I don't know exactly when it was built, but I know it was quite some time ago, and the previous owners had suicide on the property, things like that. It just seems like a vortex position of a lot of negativity, it seems like.
And are you still in college when this happened?
Yes.
Okay. So you're dealing with Terry in your townhouse.
Yes.
And you've dealt with the sleep paralysis cloaked hooded figure thing
Right.
in your guest bedroom at your house.
Yes.
And then you go to your buddy's house and there's the phantom ghost walking up and down the stairs, causing a ruckus. So I could see why you're starting to think that this thing is following you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right. About a month or so ago, I just had a spiritual healer clear my current apartment because I was starting to be woken up again. It wasn't the same figure in my room, but about 2 months ago, there's definitely a figure in my room standing near my hallway by my door type thing. It got to the point I threw my phone at it because that's the only thing I had near me. I just yelled and threw my phone. And I tried to go to sleep, and the next day I got a hold of my friend of mine that was a spiritual healer. And until December, late December, I had a girlfriend that was living with me, and she had a little Shih Tzu. And pretty frequently, he'd wake us up barking at my couch.
Uh-oh.
And we were like, oh, that's scary. And then one of the nights she went out and she was like, no, he was afraid of the couch. So that has most recently been happening. I saw this figure in my room that I threw my phone at, and I called my friend and I was like, hey, you got to help me or at least tell me what's going on. At this point, I had broken up with my ex. My friend was able to let me know that something followed me from her mother's house. And they've had hauntings and stuff like that her whole life, too. It was just wild to be like, yeah, and here's where it came from. And I'm like, those dots connect.
So you're a ghost magnet, basically.
Yes. Yeah. I'm worried about, as much as I want to, I'm worried about leaning into it because I don't want to do it wrong and then not have any of the tools I need to fix it myself or at least get through a night or something like that.
Yeah, we've learned that that's kind of important since starting this show. We never would have worried about that before. But yeah, apparently it is important to do it the right way. Make sure to protect yourself.
I was actually on the fence about even having this conversation on a laptop in my apartment. So when I get back from work tonight, I'm probably just going to sage.
That's a good idea.
Just in case. And also, I'm leaving to go to a wedding for 3 days. So I don't want anything I might have brought in here to have carte blanche and feel like it's its place until I get back. because then we're going to have a fight and I'm going to scream, you better be paying bills if you're going to wake me up again, you know.
Right? No more squatters.
Yeah, right. If you chip in on the rent, we can work something out, but you can't just be waking me up.
So describe what it looked like, what you saw.
I'd say it was a shadow. It was taller. It had a definite neckline and shoulders, and it was moving across my room into my hallway. It's like it hit my hallway and kind of disappeared, but it was real enough that I saw it. Being that I just woken up, it looked like a real enough person for me to physically try to damage or harm it.
Right. And you clearly weren't dreaming because you were capable of throwing your phone.
Right, yeah.
I hope your phone was okay.
But no, it was fine. And up until that moment, I was having really intense dreams, almost like a lucid dream, I'd say. I had one where I tried to get out of bed, but I just started floating at bed level.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh, this is the weirdest way to fly ever. Like, I could just stand. But as I start to wake up every time, I just kind of lower to the ground and then wake up because my body's waking up, I guess.
Ooh, it's a little mini astral projection.
Yeah. I'm kind of afraid to lean into all this because I always ask my mom if I've had like imaginary friends growing up or whatever, and she always just deflected the question.
Okay.
But like when I moved out of her house to college, we never really went to church that much, but she's like, hey, here are these prayer cards. I just want you to have them just in case. And here's a crucifix too.
Oh.
So I'm like, okay, I really feel like you're not telling me something, you know.
Yeah, that's a sneaky one.
Just, you'll know it if you need it.
Did she ever ask you if you needed it or if you used it?
No, but I mentioned to her that I want to plan a trip to Louisiana to go on ghost tours.
Yeah.
And she just immediately goes, you need to protect yourself if you're going to do that. You can't just go there.
Okay.
And I was like, why? She's just like, it's just better if you do. She like snapped, and she doesn't normally like get like that.
So it definitely sounds like you've been gathering entities
Yeah.
over time from different places and kind of collecting them in a way. Do you feel like they eventually just leave you alone, or that you can walk away from them? Or do you feel like all of these things might still be somewhere around you?
I think a lot of them might still be around me,
Okay.
but every now and then I'll find something that's bad, and that's when I put my foot down or I ask for help from someone else. It has to be a pretty intense event for me to sage and do that sort of stuff because I am bothered by it. But literally, if you can do things without messing up my sleep schedule, I think we're pretty chill. The second I wake up or I feel like I can't get to sleep because someone's watching me, and I live alone, so just to have eyes on you when you know you're the only one with a key in a third floor apartment, it's just kind of unsettling.
So you mentioned that the snakes, the dark snakes that you saw going under your bed, that's happened several times.
Yeah.
It happened in your townhouse.
It happened in the townhouse and at another apartment in Kalamazoo. I haven't seen it since.
So it's just those 2 times, but it was exactly the same thing.
Right.
And you said you thought it was black snakes at the time, but you realized it must have been some kind of a mist.
I think a mist would be more accurate because I remember it kind of like trailing off, but it was close to the floor and kind of did like a little zigzag thing. I don't know how to explain it. It was wispy, and if it strung out itself long enough, I could see how I thought that was a snake. I did have an interesting story happen to me when I went to Zach Baggins Museum
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
in Vegas. It's a cool place. Actually, 2 things happened there. The one thing that interested me, but I can see how it could be gimmicky if someone was messing with me. You're in a little lobby at first, and then someone says, does anything notice anything off about this room? And I was the only one that raised my hand. And I go, it's that picture over there. And it was a picture of 2 twins from the early 1900s. And he's like, what's up with it? I'm like, I don't know, but one of them is staring into my soul. And he goes, oh, how long have you been a medium? And I go, I'm not. What are you talking about? And he goes, the only people that can point out anything in this room to me, point out that picture, they're mediums. And it's because one of the girls is dead. It was when they used to do those post-mortem photos. It was like a last picture of a girl and her sister. And that's why it felt so crazy to me. But I really think he was messing with me. But it's really weird that he would say that.
Yeah.
And I've had all this stuff happen to me for so long.
Yeah, he may not have been messing with you.
Yeah. It's not that I'm scared. It's just I'm trying to tell myself that. I'm like, oh, it's gimmicky. But honestly, I really think he might be right.
Maybe. Possible there's nothing following you. You're just able to perceive things that other people in the space can't.
Right. There was one other thing. They had a spirit box in their basement where they used to do the seances before Zach bought the house and everything. I was down there and there was a spirit box, so I was trying to talk and just see if anything would come out of it. And I started feeling dizzy, but the lighting is pretty weird down there, so I chalked it up to that. Oh, it's probably just the way the light's hitting the ceiling and it's all red and it's just a little bit disorienting, it felt like. I was down there alone, and then this other couple I was on the tour with, they came down a minute or so after. And you walk down a hallway and into the main part of the room. So I leave the main part, I'm walking down the hallway and my foot hits the first step to go upstairs. And I heard the woman shriek. And then they come running up after me. And I go, did something happen? Why'd you yell? And she goes, it said, come back. So right when my foot hit that step, it said, come back. So.
Whoa.
The spirit box said it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I just gave myself goosebumps.
And this is in the basement of the museum.
Yeah, where they had the rituals.
Oh, gosh. Whoa. Becky, we're going to have to take a trip there.
Vegas, here we come. I've always wanted to see it.
Seriously, it takes like 3
Oh, my
hours.
goodness.
And then my advice to you is do the VIP thing because it's only like $30 more and you get a t-shirt. So it's what you'd spend anyway after.
Okay.
Cool. So all of these entities, if they were indeed following you home from friends' houses or from cemeteries, what do you think they wanted?
I have no idea. I really don't know. Maybe I am easier to communicate with, so I'm easier to follow. I literally have no idea. I haven't put any thought into that sort of thing because I don't want to, like I was saying, I don't want to explore it and then have it be a lot worse for myself.
Sure. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Nick, those were some horrifying stories.
I want to know what it was like living in the townhome with Caitlin and Jordan and having all those very obvious shared haunting experiences that culminated in that horrible last night. What was the general feeling about that house? Were people just like, oh yeah, it's haunted? Or was there significant fear going around?
I don't think at all significant fear. Like we said, we gave whatever was there a playful name.
Yeah.
So we just be, oh, Terry's hanging out. Stuff like that. And I don't remember if it was better in the daytime or better at night. It was just a townhome with college kids. So typically there's always someone else around. So you didn't feel too alone or anything like that. But when I was alone and I knew I was alone and maybe it got upset that I was leaving, or maybe it just wanted me out faster. But I drive by that place pretty much every day when I come home from work. I really just want to go knock on the door and ask him.
Yeah.
Like, have you noticed anything weird?
Ooh.
Apart from this guy standing on your doorstep asking if there's anything weird.
Is the creepy old Christmas house still there?
That house is still there, yeah.
Did you get the feeling, because it sounds like you never felt threatened by Terry, the spirit, until you were alone at the very
Right.
end, but also perhaps that moment when Terry scooched a bottle off of the cabinets at you. Did you feel like that was at all threatening, or was that playful interaction?
It came so close to me, it's hard not to say I wasn't threatened by it.
Okay.
Because it was within inches of actually hitting me.
Yeah.
I think I'm more likely to believe that there might have been two things. Because Terry would open doors and drawers and move things around and rearrange our cabinets for us and things like that. But I really don't think whatever happened on that last night was Terry.
Okay.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. Unless Terry was just pissed that you weren't scared. Like, what do I got to do to these people?
Well, Terry got it. I'll give Terry that.
Nick, this has been wonderful to hear your stories. They are terrifying.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad they made the cut. If anything horrible is going to happen to me, I'd rather be able to get some notoriety
There you
for
go.
it. It's a lot coming from the two of you.
And remember, our last guest on said that she had no interest in pursuing any paranormal investigation before she got interviewed by us. So sorry if this kicks off a new lifestyle for you of investigating this stuff.
Yeah, well, hopefully it does. That'd be pretty cool. I enjoy talking about these things, and I just like hearing everyone's stories.
Y'all listening out there have been listening to Nick Click, who has been relaying his stories of Michigan hauntings that seem to be following him around, or is he following them around? We'll let you all decide. Yes. Nick, thank you again for coming on today. I appreciate you taking your lunch break to speak with us.
Yeah, for sure.
It's been great getting to know you.
Thank you very much. It's so much fun.
Yeah. I really enjoyed your stories, Nick. Thank you for coming on. Stories from Michigan are gearing up to be my favorite somehow. I don't know
really?
what it is. It's always
It's a spooky state.
It's a spooky state. And listeners, I hope everybody has as much of a spooky day.
Homespun Haints is hosted by Becky Kielimnik and Diana Doty, and produced by Homespun Haints Media LLC. Editing and music by Becky Kielimnik. Show notes by Diana Doty. If you have a ghost story and you'd like to be considered as a guest for this podcast, please visit our website at homespunhaints.com/submit.